Moving on, I mean, you tell me, but if we did have some kind of solution, if there was a cure, would things bounce back pretty quickly? Would people get back on planes? Would people go to restaurants if they knew that all they need to do is pop a few pills and they'd be fine? I don't know, especially if those bills are $10. We'll see. I'm not trying to make light of this by any means. I've been locked in my home, terrified to go out, and I'm personally tired of it. So I'm very, very hopeful that uh, that there's a solution that we just can't see yet, and maybe that's what some of the other companies can see and why they think there'll be a bounce back. But even if things go back to normal, look, this was what was normal, that before all of this, homeownership rates were not back to where they had been in the early 2000s. So even though we had a lot of people being able to jump back into the housing market, there were still more people renting than they had in the 2000s. So still difficulty for people to be able to afford a home. And as I've said in past webinars, that has a lot to do with how difficult it is to get a loan. And it's even more difficult today because there's fewer lenders out there. You have to have very good credit, low debt. You have to have reserves. And that was already a problem. Now, after all of this, it's going to be a bigger problem. People are probably going to have more debt. They're probably maybe going to have some hits on their credit, maybe not perfect credit if they couldn't make their, some of their payments. And the reserves have maybe been tapped into. So I do expect that when we were already kind of struggling with homeownership rate, that we're going to maybe see that flatten a bit and maybe even go down a bit, where fewer people are going to be able to buy homes. Again, you can read that headline lots of different ways. It's my mission to help people get into real estate because I truly believe it is one of the best ways to build wealth. And it's sad to me when so many people are unable to. So I'm hoping that there will be more opportunity for people to get into homeownership. What that does mean is it means more people will likely be renting. So this is a John Burns survey. He does these regular surveys. And John Burns Real Estate Consulting, I follow a lot of his work. It's a lot of great data. If you look on here, look at the single family rental sector on this. It says, is demand for your goods or services increasing or decreasing compared to last week? You'll see the green is increasing, yellow is the same, and red is decreasing. So some decreasing in public building. Yep, they're slowing down, like I said. Decreasing private builders. Yep, that just means less inventory when more inventory is what's actually needed. Building products been down a bit, even though Rich said he went to Home Depot yesterday and there was like cars, like long lines of people during the middle of the day. He thought, boy, I wonder if these stay-at-home workers are going to Home Depot and working on their gardens instead of working. Who knows? Anyway, developers, but look at that, single family rentals, the same. It's 62%. That's impressive. So I mean, again, if you're a landlord, that's impressive. It's unfortunate if you're, trying to buy a home. Now, a lot of people have been wondering how the REITs are doing. American Homes for Rent is a big REIT. They own single family rentals. And here's kind of what they came out with, that they're still providing necessary maintenance. They're close to full occupancy. Wow. They waived late fees. Yep, so did we. Halted evictions for non-payment. Yep, so did we. Kind of because we had to, and also no one wants to kick anyone out on the street at this time. Offering 0% increases on renewal leases in April. Okay. And same in Q1, same home average occupied days in excess of 95%. Collected approximately 86% of rents, which is in excess of 90% of historical collections for the same time frame, temporarily suspending traditional acquisition and national builder acquisition. So I kind of like that last line, because if they're temporarily suspending acquisition, that's good for us. We don't have them to compete with, which has always been a challenge because they have more money and more cash. So opens up more inventory. So that brings us to our the teams that at Real Wealth we refer our members to in different markets, we find experienced real estate investors who know how to find discounted properties, renovate them to our standards, offer ongoing property management, bring in qualified tenants and so forth. So we've been doing regular webinars to check in and get honest feedback. It's like I wanted the truth. Don't, just be honest. We want to know what's going on. And these are, every single time I'm just absolutely shocked at what I hear. And Tampa's not that surprising because Tampa keeps coming up as being one of the strongest markets in the country, fastest growing, least affected by all of this. So, I wasn't that surprised with Tampa. But here's, some of the things they said. Amazon is a large distribution center south of Tampa. They're still hiring. Walmart's hiring. Major employers, well, the Air Force Base, they're not going anywhere. University of Florida, not going anywhere. Strong healthcare sector. Less than 10% of our tenants work in service. So as a result, 93% of rents collected, higher than average. That's amazing, just shocking. Rents decreasing? Nope. Inventory is historically low, especially for quality vacant homes in density neighborhoods. Just, again, short on inventory, even for rentals. So no decreasing in rents. Any changes in rent applications? Strong demand. Recent lease turnovers were due to job relocation, moving inventory like a normal April. And no change on ROI, just like I said, nope, homes are appraising today for what they appraised for 2 to 3 months ago. That's Tampa, and again, that's not surprising, but what was surprising was Detroit. I was terrified for that webinar. I was like, oh boy, here I've been promoting Detroit. They're getting hammered. They're one of the hot spots for coronavirus. They're got the big three laying people off. So I was like, I don't know if I want to do this webinar, but we want to be honest. We want to tell our members what's really going on. And I was shocked. So the short-term outlook for their their tenants, employers, and remember, they're not buying in Detroit. They're in the suburbs of Detroit, and a lot of the data you hear is in the city central. I mean, none of the single-family rental teams are in the city center. They're in suburbs. So in the suburbs that they're in the homes that they targeted in those areas, the major employers for their tenants are Amazon, FedEx, Comcast, UPS, and Kroger. These are industries that are hiring. Healthcare, tech, transportation, insurance, education, and sales. These jobs have not gone away. People need insurance more than ever. People are still taking classes. People need healthcare. And a lot of these people are able to work from home. So as a result, in Detroit, again, I was totally shocked, didn't expect it, 92% collected rents, on par with March. Changes in rental applications. They received 50 applications last week, on average moving 15 to 20 tenants a month. No significant changes on renewals or tenant quality. Amazing. Rents decreasing? Nope. Demand is still high. Leasing agents are super busy. Change on ROI? Property values have not changed. Still at pre-pandemic prices. Sellers are motivated because cash is king. And got this slide, Detroit Industry Spotlight. Tech hiring going strong. Didn't know that. Did not realize. I mean, I kind of realized that there was a lot of tech in Detroit because a lot of companies thought, boy, it's cheap. There's a lot of vacant buildings. We can move millennials in. It became kind of a millennial hub in Detroit. Big job openings in healthcare, tech, transportation, insurance, education, and sales. You are not hearing this stuff on the news. That's why I wanted to bring you some good news. And Orlando, this is another market that I hear other economists saying, oh, Orlando's going to get hit the hardest because it's so dependent on tourism. But is it? So again, with this webinar, checking in with the property manager there, I was a little nervous to hear what they had to say. That the agent there in Orlando, she's been working with investors for 30, 40 years. And she's learned a lot through many, many recessions, one being never over leverage. C properties tend to get affected first. They're mostly in B and some A areas. So The areas that they buy in have not been heavily affected by tourism. They kind of knew that. They were not in those areas. The major employers are hiring in all of our markets, she said, and there are jobs to be had. So in April, 87% fully collected and the remainder on payment plans. Rents decreasing? Nope. Seeing an increase in demand for single family homes. In fact, she said they don't have enough homes for the demand. So that is interesting. And lots of people still buying properties there because they're buying from all over, from New York, from Europe, overseas, and certainly a lot of RealWealth members are buying there because Orlando and Tampa, that area right there, has been the fastest growing in the country, and that doesn't tend to change overnight. And then here's just, again, some of the jobs, 16,000 full-time jobs available today just in Kissimmee. Just amazing. Palm Bay has 4,663 full-time jobs available today. The Villages, 4,000 full-time jobs available today. These are job openings. Most of the areas we buy in are not heavily affected by tourism. Large Amazon distribution centers in almost every area. Amazon recently announced 100,000 new jobs. I think that's nationwide. And Central Florida also has the highest PhD per capita in the country for medical research and medical equipment manufacturing. So again, I was nervous because every economist I see says, oh, Orlando's going to get hit hard, but we're just not seeing that. All right, at least not yet. So what will happen? Well, I still think there will be a pullback, and there needed to be one, and I predicted there would be one. It just doesn't hit across the board. It just hits companies that weren't preparing. They took on too much debt. We had record high stock market, but many of those companies were way overloaded with debt. Record high junk bonds, people investing in, they couldn't find yield anywhere and starting to just make poor decisions. Record high unicorn valuations, super poor decisions there with a lot of, hedge funds and so forth. Record high auto debt, just too easy to walk in and get a car. Anyone can get one. Same for student loans for college. Man, you don't have to have any proof that you can pay those back and, walk out and go to whatever school you want to, that you can get into. It just didn't make sense. Like, how are these kids gonna pay this back? Record high real estate prices in some areas where it just didn't make sense. Record high credit card debt, national debt, corporate debt. I mean, there will be a reset. It was a needed reset, but in many cases, it will come in the form of bankruptcy, and you're going to see that. You're seeing it already. And people always send me articles saying, so-and-so is going bankrupt. Well, that's not the worst thing. Usually when a corporation goes bankrupt, they're restructuring. It means they get to write off debt, and then their balance sheet's better. So for corporations that go, into bankruptcy, they often come out much stronger. So it's not, again, always the worst thing. And I guarantee you, we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies. I've said that in many of my presentations that, the air's got to come out of these companies that took on too much debt, and that comes in the form of bankruptcy. Unfortunately, when non-corporate people, just ordinary people file bankruptcy, it's not as friendly. Sure, if you file a bankruptcy, you get to walk away from a lot of debt and have a restart, and that can be a good thing. That can be a very good thing, but it also really is hard on your credit. So what does that mean if a lot of people will be filing bankruptcy and walking away from debt? Legally, remember, legally walking away from debt, it means their credit will be destroyed for probably 10 years. Now, what does that mean for us as real estate investors? Again, it means more renters. They won't be able to qualify for a home. It doesn't mean that they won't be able to pay their rent because they just gave up a bunch of debt, If anything, it makes, again, their balance sheet better, but it does not allow them to build wealth through real estate, which is unfortunate. So again, just good debt, bad debt. That's a slide. You already know that. All right, so I'll be taking some questions. When I do, I think it's going to mess up my screen because I don't know why. I think it's because I have a Mac. But on upcoming webinars, if you do want to get a real-time update on the Dallas market, we'll be covering that on May 5th. Then on Thursday, May 7th, we'll have just a check-in with the Cincinnati market. We'll find out how her May rents went, May collections went. That'll be the same for Dallas. We'll find out. A lot of people are worried that people will have a harder time paying in May. I don't think that's going to be the case because I think people did get their stimulus checks by now. And in these markets, a $1,200 stimulus check goes a long way because, you know, the rents are around that amount. And also these are areas where landlord laws are very, very strict. So people do expect that they need to pay their rent. So we'll get an update on that. I think it'll be positive, but we will see. We'll get real-time data, although it's still early in the month. Won't really know till like mid-May because some of the payment plans don't get paid till, you know, towards maybe towards week 3 of May. But we'll get an idea.